So we're gonna do nocturne paintings, which can mean a lot of things. It can be, painting the moonlight, uh, indoor lighting, starlight, comets. But in our way, we're gonna use it. I want it to be like a motif, or a way you can use light to really create a mood, or a dreamscape, or a fantasy. Really put some emotion and expressiveness into your artwork. What's interesting to think about too is if you think about when these are done, like this Rembrandt, um, or some of the paintings of comets, was how interesting this light was to the people who painted it. I mean, a comet, they had no understanding of what a comet was, so there were actually a lot of Turner and a bunch of people did paintings of the comet that I think was in 1851 or whatever, or how they had to paint this bonfire outside with some other light source because they didn't have it. If you think about, like, bonfire was the light that people had at night before the 1880s, and there was electricity. And then what did a city look like? The people, I think this was Villard that painted this. What an interesting thing to be witnessing indoor lighting. And like Toulouse-Lautrec did a lot of paintings that kind of were about the lighting up and the street lights of the cities, because this was really new. So a lot of these paintings were done because people, it was a challenge for them, and it was an interest to them to depict this new way that they looked indoors with gas lighting, or, and then electrical lighting when it came. So it's kind of interesting to think about that when they were painting this, it wasn't just depicting a scene, it was really kind of exploring um, a new light quality. So I think the indoor nocturne paintings are just as interesting because it really was such a new light, like a new type of light, and to depict that is pretty interesting. But the official term nocturne was officially started by Whistler in 1871, when he wanted to capture the beauty and tranquility of the town. And one of his patrons came up with the name to describe his moonlit scenes, and that was the first one. And then Ryder, who's an American, a really famous American, really was obsessed with capturing moonlight on the sea. Winslow Homer, if you think about it, again, these are all trying to capture what moonlight does to nature, which is really special. If you look at these, you'll notice that dealing with an entirely different kind of palette here. For one thing, the whites are not white. When we paint tomorrow night, we're not going to have any white on your palette, pure white. You're going to change that into a few values darker, because there is no real white here. And we're also going to change it. I'm going to bring in some different colors. I'm going to bring in some turquoise and alizarin crimson and some different colors, because look at these different palettes. There's so much more gold. There's a lot of green in these blues, a lot of turquoise. Um, and some of these have obviously inserted like kind of a red. So I'll bring in different um, colors for everyone to sample and try out. But you're never going to go to white, really, if you're depicting an actual nocturne moonlight nighttime thing. So we'll talk about more of that. And we'll also talk about some of the challenges of mixing darker colors, because you can't see when you're mixing darker colors on your palette as well. So we will talk a little bit about that, how you deal with that fact when you actually have a clump of really dark paint on your palette. It's a challenge. I could just be talking about all these. They're so beautiful to me anyway. And I highly recommend maybe going back and muting me and and really looking at these palettes and thinking about what the light source was of these paintings, where the light was, if it was moonlight, if it was gaslight, new electrical light, and think about, what do you want to take this approach with? This is a really great exercise to use just your imagination. Not bring in any reference and just paint from your imagination. A scene, a nightmare you've had, a dream you've had, an animal in the night. Some of these Frederick Remington, who is a real pig and xenophobic, but look at these colors and the way he uses light to make the drama. You guys could really play around with it. And again, I'll bring in all these colors so you can just experiment. Again, horrible person, very cool paintings. That happens a lot. Edward Hopper was, he captured America by really the way he used light to create a sense of loneliness. Um, you could also be really trippy, like Charles Birchfield, and earlier I showed Leonora Carrington, who is this surrealist. Look at the light on these George Bellows. Again, celebrating indoor lighting. A lot of these were outdoor lighting. Alex Katz, I think these are absolutely magical. Yeah, definitely shut me up, turn the mute on after this one, and go back and look at these. I think you'll be really inspired. I'm really excited to see what you guys do with these. And like some of these green blacks, um, these multiple shades of like these are Louise Dowd, who's amazing. I know I repeatedly show you some of the same people, but that's because they're great. And interesting, yeah, there's a history of Japanese art capturing that amazing dusk lighting. You could try something like that. I really feel like you guys are gonna have a great time playing around with this. I clumped together the YFs, Andrew and NC. They're both great illustrators, but again, you could just do a lot of darkness on your palette and really go to a dark place if you want. Um, and yeah, sorry. And then getting more contemporary, Sarah Williams does kind of, talks on the isolation of America, obviously, with these works. And again, Peter Doug, who I know I show a lot, but I feel like his painting is pretty accessible, and it's something you guys could do. That's why I show him. And again, Catherine Bradford, her ability to use light as her source of magic is pretty inspirational. So, and again, simple painting. You don't have to be a Renaissance level painter here to do that. So in class, we are going to experiment with the palette, and you can do V.C. Andrews covers if that's what you want to do with your Nocturne. It could be really cool. You could make your own Flowers in the Attic cover. I don't care. But again, it really is pretty nocturnally and trippy. It fits right in. So we're going to play around with some greens and Peruvian blues and Play-Doh blues and turquoises, and really think about how there are no whites and what colors are used instead to depict that.